Hi everyone, it's Monica and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Well, today we're going to be working with ephemera. And when I say ephemera, I mean tiny pieces of paper. Yes, you guys know my addiction for ephemera, but something about small ephemera just really is fun to work with. I think because you can create such great backgrounds and you can add so many different elements. Now, a lot of my Valentine ephemera comes from my vintage collection. So as you can see, this is the original one here, and then I scanned it and I shrunk it down real small so I can work with it on some of my projects. And that's what most of this ephemera is here today. Some of this comes from actual stamps where I'll just stamp it and distress it up so I can use it on some of my projects. Some of them are just little punches, got little hearts here. And some of them are actual vintage invoices, again, that I've scanned and I've shrunk down so I can use on my projects. Now, a few days ago, I shared with you some of these cute little Valentines that are really starters. You can easily type or write a little note on this and give these as Valentines, put them into a little envelope, or you can use them as starters on some of your projects. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with these. I just like to create them for the pure enjoyment of creating. But certainly I'm sure you could come up with a lot of ideas on how to use these cute little pieces. Now, I've also been working on these vintage slides, and I've shared these with you on some of the previous holidays. I made some for Halloween, and then I also made some for Christmas. And again, these are just old slides that I've covered with pieces of paper, and then I've decorated them up. So these are also fun to create as well, and then you can use these on some of your projects. So I think we'll do a couple of each, right? So we'll do some of these little tag-like ephemera pieces, and then we'll do some of these slides. So let's go ahead and kind of jump right in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and cover these first so we can set them aside to dry while we work on our little ETCs. So these are just color transparencies that I picked up at yard sales. I picked them up at estate sales. And I like to work with them because they can create cute little frames that you can use for your projects. So when you're working with these, what I like to do is I like to just take this out, but don't throw this away because as you can see, I like to incorporate this into my background sometimes. So you just push that aside. And then it's as simple as just getting some glue and gluing them down. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and use the dark side this time. And then I'm just going to get some of my glue. And then add it and then set it aside. Now, when I'm working with these, ordinarily the backside gets glued down, so I don't worry too much about this. But if you are concerned about this, maybe you're going to keep it loose on a project, pick what side you want to glue down and cover. So I don't mind having this showing if I were to keep it, you know, not glued down. But if I had the choice between this and this, I probably, it's hard to say, right? When I like this, so I might be able to cover this. So let's go ahead and glue it this way. And I'm just using my 3-in-1 beacon. I'm going to add it down, and then I'm just going to put it aside for it to dry. Okay, so for these, I'm pulling out an old set, and many of you may remember this set. Came out a while ago. It's a Tim Holtz, and it's called Label Frames. And these are inspired from the old Dennison labels, which I have also. But I hate to use some of my ephemera up, so I like to recreate it. And the two sizes that I used this one here, and then I also use this one. Now you can go as big or as small as you want to, but these are just the two sizes that I chose to work with. And I really like the small one here especially for some of my smaller ephemera, because it just seems to be really nice and tidy. But if you want to have more of a background showing, then of course the bigger one would work nicely as well. So let's go ahead and stamp up some backgrounds. So I'm using heavier cardstock. The cardstock that I'm working with is what I use for the base of my greeting cards, and that's because I really want it to hold up. So I think we can get a couple of these in here. I'm just going to go ahead and line this up, and then for my initial stamp, I like it to be somewhat light because I'm going to come back and stamp again. So it's important that you have this lined up nicely, so that way you can come back and stamp again. And like I said, I'm just going to come in with a light color to give me my frame when I am putting together my background. And the color I'm using here is brush corduroy, but certainly you can use any color you desire. If you're going for the authentic Dennison label look, you might want to use red. And I'm fine with it like that. Like I said, just make sure it's lined up nicely, and then don't take it off of your stamping tool so you can come back and stamp again. I really just wanted my outline so I can put my background together. Okay, now for the background, there's a lot of directions you can go. But what I did for mine is I used oversized washi tape. And the two that I used were these for the most part, but you can use different sizes. And you can even cut some of the words off if you wanted to. So that's what I'm going to use today. I'm going to go ahead and use this pink one here. And I like to keep it in the line because it doesn't necessarily stamp wonderfully on top of it. I mean, it's okay, but I just prefer to try to keep it in the line. So I'm just going to try to measure this up here. And then I'll tear it. So probably around right there. And I'm just gonna tear it. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then I also like to tear the bottom as well, just to make it look a little bit rough. All right, and then I'm just gonna reline it up to start to create my background. And then rather than come in with the same color, I could certainly do that. I'm going to go ahead and add a different background here. It's from the same set, so it matches really nicely. It'll just give me a little bit of a different design. And then I'm going to go ahead and leave that blank for now, and then I can come back and decorate that up. All right, so for the next one, let's go ahead and use the butterfly one. And again, this is larger washi tape, so it will take up quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and just figure out my measurement here. And then use my finger as a guide, and then I'm going to tear it in half. Doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I prefer it to be a little organic. It's for my background design. And if you do end up going over the lines, it's not a big deal. It'll just take you a little bit longer to dry when you stamp over it. And that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be stamping it again and then cutting it out. So I've got that, and then let's go ahead and add this piece here. And let's see, I think that's all I'll do for that. All right, so now that we have our washi tape, let's go ahead and get our Misty, and we'll restamp this to make this just a little bit darker. All right. So we're going to line this up again. Okay, and then let's go ahead and restamp it. And this is where, you know, if you want it a little bit darker, you would stamp it a few times. And as you can see, it does look a little bit distressed, and that's fine. If you want to take care of those lines, what I was doing when I was playing is, when it was wet, I was adding some embossing glaze to it. You know, pick out the color that probably matches, and that will give it a little bit of a shine as well. I'm not going to necessarily do it for these, but that's another option as well. Okay, so these look pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and put this aside, and then we'll cut these out and start putting them together. Okay, so after I cut these out, I did take my heating tool to these, just so I wouldn't get ink all over my fingers if the ink was still a little bit wet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some walnut stain to just distress some of the edges here. Okay. Now walnut stain, as you know, is my go-to ink for edging. I just like the way that it looks. But another color you could use is just your what is it, antique photo, or vintage photo I should say, which is another brown, but the walnut stain is just a little bit darker, and I just like the way that it looks on the edges. So I'm going to go ahead and just edge these up, and then we'll be ready to start decorating them. Okay, so we are using brush corduroy. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of color to the background, just so it doesn't look completely white, but just really lightly. I'm not looking to add a lot of color. I just don't want it to look white. Okay. Alright, so now we're ready to add some background. So the first thing we want to do is we want to figure out our focal point, right? And these two little characters are just so cute. I'm going to go ahead and, I used it for this here, so I'm going to go ahead and use it for one of my backgrounds. And then for this one, I think I'm going to, a lot of choices here. Let's see, I've got the little girl, she's cute. Got that one, and then I've got the one with the male. So let's see what we're gonna do here. I think I'm gonna go ahead and use the one with the male, because I've got this cute little Valentine that I think would be cute as well. So we'll do that for the background. And then for this one, kind of looks like they're gonna go on a trip, right? So let's see if we can maybe use an old train ticket. Destiny's kind of cute. Maybe we can incorporate that somehow. Let's see. Lots of choices. And there's really no rhyme or reason to this. I'm just looking to create some layers for my background. And let's see. Maybe something like that. Oh, there's a good one. Maybe we'll add that. Okay, so now that I've figured out my layers, another thing that I like to add to my backgrounds are these remnant rubs. And I like these because you've got cute little words that you could use. You've got images if you want to use some of the background. But there's also, if I can find it here, a postage one from one of Tim Holtz's set. And that's what I've been using for my Valentines. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. It's that one right there. And it's great because it's got, you know, postcard, airmail theme, and it works really well for travel ones especially. So let's go ahead and do this one. So the first thing I do once I have my layout is I want to do my background. So kind of have an idea how this is going to go. And I only put the glue in the middle so that way the edges will still be loose enough where I can tuck underneath. And if you want to, certainly you can, you know, distress the edges, add your walnut stain or whatever you want to use, just to make them look a little bit more vintage. Just trying to make sure I have a nice background here. Probably should put my ink on before I put the glue, right? That's right. And then figure out how this is going to go. Now when I print these out, the paper that I use isn't too stiff because I want to be able to have it a little bit flimsy, not too hard to cut out. So kind of keep that in mind when you are cutting these out. And I like the wet glue also because I can readjust it as I'm working with it. I think that'll work nice. Okay, and then you can pop these up with, you know, glue, foam dots if you want to, or, you know, just laying them straight works nice as well. For these little tags, I'm going to go ahead and just glue them straight on and not have any pop-ups. Okay. And then as you can see, I still have some white space here, and that's because I want to be able to maybe add some words, airmail, you know, something like that. So that's why I didn't, you know, completely cover it. So let's see if we can figure this out. So let's see. Okay, so lost and found. I'm gonna go ahead and put up here. No rhyme or reason. All right, so once you have your little ATCs put together, there are other additions you can add to these as well. So you can use little stickers that have little words or little phrases just to finish them off. Especially if you're going for a theme label, it's always fun to be able to find some sort of little message to add to your tags. So let's go ahead and jump right into the slides that we glued earlier. So at this point, they should be pretty dry. So you're going to just go ahead and bring them over to your work table and cut around the edges. What's really easy about these is there are some really thicker edges on these slides. So it makes it really easy to just follow the lines and get a nice clean cut. And then you're going to need an X-Acto blade to take out the inside. So you're just going to want to be really careful, but have some nice pressure to get the inside of your slide cut out. Now, you don't have to cut out the inside because you are going to be doing some layering, but I really like having some of that open space in my background, but that's going to be entirely up to you. And then once you have your slide inside cut out, if you want, you can go ahead and get some distress ink to add to the outside. And then your process is going to be pretty much the same as it was for the ATCs. You're just going to find small ephemera pieces to decorate your slide. Now, I really like working with small ephemera pieces. I know that there's a lot of card makers out there that prefer to work with the larger pieces, but to me, the smaller ones are just so adorable. I fall in love with working with smalls, but I know it's not for everybody. And I think that's why I really like the Remnant rubs, because they are the perfect size to work with the smaller ephemera pieces. Now, Tim Holtz has a few packets of the smaller ephemera pieces, and also don't forget you can use the black and white paper dolls as well. But I wanted to go a step further. So as a vintage inspired crafter, I do collect vintage ephemera, and as I indicated in the beginning, a lot of times I'll take my personal ephemera, scan it, and size it down to be able to create my own projects. And I know a lot of you guys like to duplicate some of my work. So be sure to check out the shop, because I do have some of these sized down ephemera sheets to be able to purchase as a digital download, so you can create these as well. And then, of course, I do have some of these slides available in the shop, as well as some digital Dennison type labels, so you can create these as well. So as I finish up decorating these slides, I am going to go ahead and speed up the video for you. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to have images of my completed ephemera pieces. So as always, if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up before you head out. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, so sit back and enjoy my process of creating the rest of these slides. And I appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you again next time.